pleasant warm welcome to Situation Report, a 30-minute presentation featuring news from and about Liberia. I am Gus Nimmick, anchoring this edition. Here at Top Stories, we are following discussion ongoing for the establishment of an academic crime court in Liberia. President George Manawia faces huge criticisms over delay in his access declaration. Liberia gets first female deputy chief of staff, and the Chinese government donates over 1,200 metric tons of rice to Liberia. Those are stories making headlines on this edition of Situation Report. The details of these and other stories is in just a moment.
This moment, as you join in with us, God is going to dry your tears.
Several discussions aimed at improving the Liberian education sector are ongoing among education stakeholders in the country. Key among the discussion is the legislative establishment of an academic crime court in Liberia. The president of the National Teachers Association of Liberia, Mary Morgan Newman, was a part of such dialogue alongside Education Minister Ansu Sune and other education authorities. Madam Newman, speaking in an exclusive interview with Situation Report, said the establishment of the academic crime code in the country is intended to deal directly with the frequent cases arising from schools in the country.
Talking strictly to school administrators, teachers, parents, even students. You will find out that some schools or some parents will take their children from this school to the next school because they fail in a class and they don't want them to repeat the class. Some parents can be aware, some don't, they are not aware at all. Take the children to the next school and jump from, somebody fail in the 10th grade and they go to the next school and take 7th grade. That is But this is not fair. So we are seeing that with this court, if an administrator is found in that, you'll be investigated, and if you are found guilty, there will be penalties. Even some of the teachers can also do it. You find out that teacher raping students, harassing girls, female students. They even got some female teachers that can sometimes treat other students. So when you are found, ask.
Madam Yima, speaking further, said the discussion with Education Minister Sonny also focused on the lessons of teachers in the country.
You see the teaching fee as a stepping stone. When there's nothing to do, say let me there go look for one little school and teach. We are saying no. So this time, even from the minister, from the Ministry of Education, during the lesson time, they will lesson you in your area, like our city. In fact, primary education in the teachers' college, I will only be restricted to primary education. So they will be lessening people according to your area of studies. So there are some people who were so smart in math, chemistry, they went in a classroom with that. We had some program. If you want to remain a teacher to be lesson, you will have to go through that program to learn the pedagogy aspect of the teaching and other learning styles. Because in the teaching field, we got our own way of doing things. Sure. That have been some of the reasons why we kept against the PSL. Because in a classroom, we know there are different ways of learning styles. So you will have to go to that institution and get a document before you can be lesson. Then at that time, you will not find high school graduate teaching because you got to be a trained and lesson teacher before you can teach in any school.
Meanwhile, the acting NTAL boss is in support of President Weah's recent decision to bring educational and agricultural experts from Nigeria to train Liberians in order to fill in the 6,000 vacancies in the education sector of the country. While Madam Yima supports the president's decision, she is, however, against the high number of experts coming into the country.
There will be some experts that will be coming to train teachers in the sciences. But training the teacher in the sciences, we also spoke on, you will have to get a laboratory where they will use to train the teachers because the theory they're doing it, but they don't have any means of doing it practical. Okay. And I would like to inform the public that the 6,000 teachers the president was referring to, from our own end, from the Ministry of Education, should be Liberians. Because the minister told us
6,000 teachers that,
yes,
that should be coming from Nigeria.
They are Liberians, not Nigerians. But even now we still got program with the Nigerians. They come here for contract.
I want to understand something because the president talked about 6,000 Nigerian experts, coming into the country.
6,000 experts will be too much.
6,000 experts.
But we know there will be experts that will come, but it can be 6,000.
6,000.
The 6,000 teachers, we know that the minister told us will be Liberians because according to what he made on the desk, 720,000 teachers to be employed. And we can tell you, we can even check, we got more than 6,000 teachers because every graduation, the Teachers College Board of Graduates. We also get the TTIs around the country. They are putting up graduates, the community colleges around the country, about 5. They are also putting us teachers with AA. So you may even check there will be more than 6,000. But actually, I think the president made a clarification that he was speaking in terms of experts, but they can be 6,000. Right now, we got ECOWAS teachers here. 5 of them are right now in Bon County. We also got Nigerian teachers that can come for contract and go back. Some are here, they will soon be leaving, and another coming. We got almost close to 300 Peace Corps are also in the country. Most of them are assigned in the rural counties. So this is how it goes.
After nearly 2 months since his inauguration as president of Liberia, George Weah has come under huge criticisms for his delay to declare his assets. The The criticisms over the president's delay in his assets declaration intensified recently in the wake of the demolition of his 9th Street residence to reportedly rebuild a personal presidential palace. Section 10.1 of the revised Code of Conduct states that every public official and employee of government involved in making decisions affecting contracting, tendering of procurement, and issuance of licenses of various steps shall sign performance of financial bonds and shall in addition declare his or her assets and liability prior to taking office. Mr. Abraham Darius Delong of the opposition Liberty Party, including scores of other Liberians, has questioned the timing of the president's demolition project. The first female Deputy Chief of Staff of the Armed Forces of Liberia, the AFL, has been nominated by President George Manneh Weah. According to an executive mansion release, President George Weah nominated Colonel Geraldine George as Liberia's new Deputy Chief of Staff of the Armed Forces of Liberia, and Anthony Carr Jerry as Assistant Defense Minister for Civil Works. Also appointed by President Weah are Prosper Brown and Edwin Coleman as Deputy Minister for Technical Services and Postal Operation respectively at the Ministry of Postal Affairs. Elsewhere, Otis Sito was appointed as City Mayor of Greenville, Sino County. These appointments are subject to confirmation by the Liberian Senate where applicable, the executive mansion release said. The chairman of the National Elections Commission, Ned Jerome Kokoya, says the country might run into constitutional crisis if funds are not provided for the conduct of the senatorial by-election for Bong and Montserrado counties. Speaking to journalists in Monrovia, Chairman Kokoya said, since February 26 this year, the commission wrote the government of Liberia, but was yet to receive such support. It can be recalled that the National Elections Commission recently said it needs $3.9 million United States dollars to conduct the upcoming senatorial by-election for Montserrado and Bong counties. But the Minister of Finance and Development Planning, Samuel Twe, said the $3.9 million projection was huge and that the by-election will cost $1.2 million. The by-election for Montserrado and Bong counties was necessitated by the vacancies created by President George Weah and Vice President Joel Howard Taylor ascendancy to the presidency and vice presidency respectively. They both serve as senators for Montserrado and Bong counties respectively. The Chinese government has donated 1,243 metric tons of rice to Liberia as an emergency humanitarian food assistance. A statement by the Liberian government confirmed recently that all 50 containers of rice had arrived in the country and was received by the government. According to the Deputy Minister for Foreign Affairs, Ila Shunye, the donation was based upon a request from the Liberian government. Fu Zhenzhu, the Chinese ambassador in Liberia, said the donation would be allocated to the needed. Ambassador Zhenzhu meanwhile said China is willing to help the West African country raise grain production and strengthen its agriculture sector. If you just join us, either in Liberia or in other parts of the world, it is a warm welcome to Situation Report, a 30-minute presentation featuring news from and about Liberia. I am Gus Nimley, anchoring this edition. Here are top stories we are following on this edition. Discussion ongoing for the establishment of an academic crime code in Liberia. President George Manneh Weah faces huge criticism over delay in his assets declaration. Liberia gets first female deputy chief of staff, and Chinese government donates over 1,200 metric tons of rice to Liberia. We take a break to be right back.
Audio Jungle. It's the Caps Entertainment Show, the best of all entertainment shows. Get all the latest gossip and entertainment news of what's trending in the world of Liberian entertainment. Enjoy 100% Liberian entertainment on Caps every Friday at 8 p.m. with Paul and Jojo live only on Light Television.
The Dominion Christian Fellowship Center, Ase Winger Global Ministry, Claratown Branch. Dominion, a true Bible believing church where we speak nothing but the truth.
I know you are lying. God has another plan for your life.
At the Dominion Christian Fellowship Center, we show you the way to true salvation, deliverance, and miracle.
If they are not concerned about improving your life, moving your life to the next level, but rather for you to be used under that roof as an instrument of destruction, they're not happy.
You can find part of our divine worship service or hour of encounter every Sunday with your humble servant, Reverend Clarence T. Payne.
My present help in times of trouble. I'm gonna praise you. I'm gonna lift your name. I'm gonna bless you.
Audio Jungle.
Thousands of Liberians living in the diaspora are at the verge of being returned to their motherland. The Liberians who have been living in the United States of America at the mercy of a temporary protected status (TPS) or deferred departure program are likely to be forced back home, as President Donald Trump is appearing unlikely to renew the service. The temporary protected status was approved for Liberia in 1991 during the height of the civil strife. The program is expected to officially expire on March 31, 2018. On Thursday, a broad coalition of diverse groups, mainly from Minnesota, returned from Washington, D.C., where they have reportedly been lobbying with members of the U.S. Congress to urge President Trump to renew the deferred and enforcement departure action for Liberians and create a pathway for citizenship. The Director General of the National Bureau of Concession, Vani Oka, has officially turned over the governance of the institution to his successor, Gregory Coleman. Mr. Coleman, who served as the last Inspector General of the Liberia National Police, the LNP, under the Ellen Johnson-led government, was appointed as Director General of the National Bureau of Concession by President George Manning Weah. Many political commentators who admire the transformation of the police under Gregory Coleman see his removal from the LNP as a wrong decision. The Minister of Youth and Sports, Dexter Zioga Wilson, says he will ensure the fullest preparation of various sports teams in the country before any outside encounter. According to Minister Wilson, the lack of proper preparation is attributable to the decline of sports in Liberia. He also blamed the decline in Liberian sports to the repetition of the same approach towards the act, promising to take a different dimension in improving sports in the country. Minister Wilson made the statement Sunday at the start of a one-day cricket tournament sponsored by the Liberian Indian community. The Youth and Sports Minister at the tournament stressed the need to improve cricket as a sport in Liberia and hoped that cricket be included in the national county meet.
Africa has a community in this country, and I see it for myself, the Indian community. I see the Liberian team, and I think it's important that we officially launch cricket. And I was one of the sports in this country, and like I said to the president of the federation, Rupesh, that we will officially launch cricket during the course of the county opening, so that Liberia can consider cricket one of its sports. And what my message has been is that there will not be business as usual. We have to do things differently. You can't be doing the same thing and expect different results. For example, most times you see the national soccer team, because we love quick results, we want to start preparation 2 weeks, 3 weeks to a tournament. It's not going to happen under the administration. If the federation does not put it out together to make sure that we're ample time to prepare our teams to participate in competition, we will not participate. And we take it very seriously because preparation is very important in a sport. Going out of days that we just hastily put a team together and want to show off the play, it's not going to happen. Can't wait for 2 to 3 weeks to a major competition and you want to put up a team. It's not going to happen under the administration. Let the message go forth. We need to prepare. That is why we will be advocating the sports development tax. Because we know that government has a lot of priorities. Government will not be in a position to fund sports 100%, but we need a steady stream of money coming in to support sports development. And there where the sports development tax comes. And we're going to really make the argument, and we're going to make the case for that. Because like I said,
also speaking at the one-day cricket tournament, the president of the Liberia National Cricket Association, Michael Yini, attributed the slow improvement of cricket in the country to the lack of funding.
Liberia's response to the introduction of cricket in Liberia has been highly welcoming. The only major challenge we have is fundings. Can you imagine we, in 2010, recruited at least about 25 students. You know, our recruitment is different from other sports. Yep. We go directly into schools. So since 2010, we went into William Gabriel Buller High School in New Georgia Estate, and we had a recruitment process in 3 months, had our classes, both theoretical and practical. We taught in the classroom and then later go on the field for demonstration. And since 2010, those students that we recruited, many of them are in universities but still commit to cricket, and they are committed. The only thing is the lack of fundings, including equipment, training facilities in this country, is what impeding cricket expansion. There is a game with our age range, but for now, we were privileged to have had the ELWA Academy accepting cricket into their school. So we are about to start training. What we are introducing into ELWA is the kids cricket. We got something called kids cricket, where between 10 to 15 age group. But what we want to do to go out to another communities, schools, is that from the age 15 to 25, because we want to create a competitive cricket in Liberia. So when you have that age range from 15 to 25, you will have people, and maybe when a school is meeting another school, and you throw a challenge to them and placing scholarship, maybe 4 or 5 scholarships on the table, who to win this scholarship, the cricket will gain momentum in Liberia as quick as possible.
Liberia's former Minister of Finance for Development Planning, who threw his hat in the race for the upcoming senatorial by-election for Montserrat County, has withdrawn his participation. Amara Kone declined from the 2018 senatorial by-election race for Montserrat County over the weekend, says it was after further consultation with friends, family members, and supporters that he decided not to run. The former minister made a declaration on a post on his Facebook page. He further stated that public service is a noble calling, but one does not have to be an elected or appointed official to exercise leadership. Meanwhile, Grand Bassa County District Number 4 lawmaker Vincent Willie is calling for unity among members of the county's legislative caucus and underscored the need for youth empowerment and rural connectivity in the county. According to Representative Willie, it is time to rebrand the county, which has been left behind in terms of development to a certain extent. To end this presentation, here once again are the headlines. Discussions are ongoing for the establishment of an academic crime code in Liberia. President George Manuel Weah faces huge criticism over delay in his access declaration. Liberia gets first female deputy chief of staff of the armed forces of Liberia. And the Chinese government donates over 1,200 metric tons of rice to Liberia. Those are headlines on this edition. Please join us for another edition of Situation Report. I have been Gus Nimmet for and on behalf of the technical team, including our cameramen, our editors, and all of those behind the scene. Please have a pleasant viewing time.
Audio Jungle.
Stay on the block. We the reason why hip will stay hot.
This moment, as you join in with us, God is going to dry your tears.